welcome back to the Late to the Game channel. I'm Ellie, and you can find me at Elementally on everything. And as always, I have with me...
Ned!
That's never not exciting.
No. And it's just one word.
Just one word.
Just one word, Ned.
Yeah. And
So...
before we start into anything, yes, we are recording in our pajamas. I feel like that should be just stated.
I mean, it's Christmas time.
You might not see it.
Yeah, if you're watching the podcast, you don't see that we're recording in front of our Christmas tree, but it's Christmas.
It's Christmas.
We're wearing
it's Christmas
our PJs.
in this house anyways.
Yeah, and it's a Sunday night right here, so we're in our PJs.
Yeah, nice and comfy.
Yeah.
But, on to the important things.
Yeah.
How have you been? What have you been doing?
So we have been traveling quite a bit.
Yeah.
So we recently went to London. So partly work. We work and travel. So we got to go to a convention and meet all sorts of nice people and
go
talk about...
Take little samples of tons of different countries.
Yeah.
We got to visit a pyramid in Egypt. We got to get some... got like a silk scarf from India.
And we got
a
nice
fan from Malaysia.
Yeah, and we got food from Korea. It's great.
All
it's
from the comfort of London.
So it was a lot of fun, and then we got to actually explore a little bit of London as well.
Do some sightseeing.
Absolutely. So not much gaming during all of that
No
time,
gaming
but
during
lots
all of that.
lots of traveling.
Lots of traveling and eating. It was good.
Yeah.
Good food.
Well, and we're going to be talking about palate cleansers today as part of the podcast. And I think, every now and then after a lot of gaming, it was just nice to get away for a week and, and travel.
I feel like given the audience that we would have with Late to the Game members, like palate cleansing is probably really important. Or just following the nature of like life and attention spans. Sometimes you just don't get to do that. So sometimes you just end up doing a palate cleanser, even if it wasn't intentional.
Yeah.
But yeah, the actual concept of palate cleanser games, we will dig into in a little bit. But before that, what have you been playing?
So I've recently just tried Phoenix Wright.
Yes.
Yeah, this is new.
That's a great palate cleanser.
It's one of these games that has kind of, and maybe we'll talk about this at some stage, one of these games that has been on my radar for years.
And I don't know why.
I don't know why either. I think it just looked fun. I love courtroom dramas.
Silly. Yeah.
I love the idea of Japanese anime games, and then very rarely the execution of them.
Yeah. Into the Japanese anime ideas, not into waifu.
Yeah, that exactly, and already sort of early into the Phoenix Wright games, there's a little bit of that, all right.
There's like a pink woman who's got cleavage down to like her belly button and stands like this, like it's so waifu.
Oh, even his high flying partner who spoilers for the first 2 minutes of the game gets murdered. Even she
very busty lawyer. Yeah,
for sure. So it's fun. It's a little sort of Capcom for me. What I mean by that is like all of the sound effects. You hear every letter being typed out, and there's no way to see. I haven't figured out a way to change that.
The audio system is actually very simple in that, and it's just like sound effects or no sound effects. Like you don't get to choose.
I'm a couple of hours into the game. I've had one actual court case at the moment, but I think I'm just about to start into my second case. I've done a lot of the investigating, and the court cases seem to be quite fun. The mechanics of the game seem like they'll be interesting. We have to remember points of different conversations, and
can't you pull out your documents at any time though?
You can, but
I suppose
I
you could
think
as a
to
lawyer,
know that a particular piece of evidence will be relevant, you might need to remember certain parts of the conversation. And I like that. I've always liked point and click adventures as well, and this has a kind of an element of that because you're trying to use certain items in certain situations. So I think I will like them. I think I need to adjust for the style of game that it is.
Yeah.
And I've talked probably about this on the podcast before. I love all the Final Fantasy games, but I really bounced off Final Fantasy 13 because I felt that it had a lot of those Japanese tropes, those anime tropes.
Just the waifu tropes. It's not necessarily anime.
You're right. It is
because there's lots of good anime.
And you've introduced me to good anime too. Yeah. It just sometimes
Yeah.
I mean, so I have the trilogy to play through, and then I have the Chronicles, which is another set of three.
So many hours to put into this game that like I watched for 5 minutes today, and I was like, how is there more?
Well,
like,
it's on the Black Friday sales at the moment, and it's been on my radar for ages. And
I know, it just
I don't
makes
know,
sense.
maybe this is another topic to talk about sometime. I've been looking for games that I can play without Ellie. Because we share so much.
We share
we love playing
basically
together.
everything in our life, so it's really hard to find. Like we've gotten actually into a habit now of identifying games when we peruse the store and be like, that's an Ellie game. Like she can play that when I'm not around, or that's a Ned game.
Which, to that very point, what have you been playing without me?
Basically, the antithesis of that game. What's it called? Phoenix? No.
Phoenix Wright. The antithesis to Phoenix Wright.
But that's not the name of the game.
Phoenix Wright Ace Attorney.
Isn't it just called Ace Attorney?
No.
Okay, well, whatever. It's the antithesis to that game, anyways. And it is Far Changing Tides, which I have a habit of almost saying Far Reaching Tides, which is funny. But it's, I mean, if for anyone who hasn't played it, I'm pretty sure it's free with the PS Plus Extra
Yeah, it is
at the moment. And it's like beautiful, really, really beautiful. The sense of scale is really similar to Little Nightmares, which is something I absolutely adore, as we know. Like you just play this tiny, tiny character in a side-scrolling platformer in a kind of eerie world, but the world is enormous. And what I really love about it is that there's no instruction, really. It's like, it is just like UX, the game. And so because it's a side scroller, there is also that default, be like, okay, go right, if you don't know what to do.
Always go right.
Yeah. And, but like there's absolutely no, HUD, like there's no display at any time.
Is there any narrative? Because I've watched you playing a little bit of this game. Is there any narrative to explain what you're meant to do? Because I haven't seen any words in it yet.
Yeah, I mean, there's no narrative in that way, but it does have very powerful narrative design.
Right.
In that there are like just these big moments, and like, I mean, even narrative design in the way that it's like you're a small character in a huge world. Very early on, you're this very resourceful character, and like the entry point of the game is that you're in the middle of a scavenging like hunt basically for parts for your ship, but you don't know you're going to your ship because you're not told anything. So it's like you just dive and suddenly your character is just in the water, and now you're figuring out and be like, okay, well, what things look like I need them basically.
Right.
And
pick up the shinies.
Yeah.
Right.
But like while you're doing that dive, you can go up, like it has such a good use of the vertical space. But like you can dive underwater, or you can see what's above it, and it's like there's just ruins, like beautiful village ruins, or like what looks like what society must have made in this post-apocalyptic world that still failed, which I think is really cool. Like they've managed to put these like levels of human failure basically.
And so it's a platformer but on a ship, and the ship also moves. You do have a ship that you get pretty early on, but it's a platformer in the sense that like you are diving, and so there are little puzzles to figure out within the water. Right. There are puzzles to figure out within the buildings that you come across, and like, is there things obstructing the pathway of your ship? So how do you go into the water and fix those things? And so it's very puzzly. And it's very beautiful, and like I don't know anything about the game at all. Besides I knew very little apart from it being put up onto the PlayStation Store as a free game either this month or last month, and I knew very little about it.
It's really, really pretty. Like I mean, pretty sounds like a mild word.
Pretty in a post-apocalyptic way.
Yeah, like it's very dreary. It's a very, very cozy kind of game, and actually, when I was sitting there, Ned and I had this moment. He just gotten home and he was watching me play, and he was like, "So, is this like a cozy game?" He's like, "You've heard of those, right?" And I was like, "Yes." Yes, I've heard of cozy games.
Well, it's a new genre. Not
to you.
It's a new genre to me. I've never heard anything. I think I've played plenty of games that are probably called cozy games, but I've never really played any cozy games. I don't think so. It's an interesting term, and it definitely seems like one, right?
It's like on the sadder side of cozy.
Right.
Cozy games are usually like cutesy management games, like Stardew Valley. Great cozy game.
For sure. I mean, that gets pretty dramatic.
Yeah, but you never actually like. It always has these undercuts of levity within that.
Right.
Whereas this is like, I think I'm in a post-apocalyptic world, likely due to climate change. Like, I think the ocean levels have risen, and that's why we have these like torrential waves. Because like, also spoilers, early on in the game, you get shipwrecked. Like, everything's going real smoothly. You've got your ship, and you're like, great, about to do some adventuring. And then you get pulled up onto a sandbank, and then you just see the waves pulling out and away. And I was like, oh, fuck, there's going to be a huge one coming in then if it's pulling the entire ocean away. And then you get washed away, and then you basically have to start anew in certain ways.
And that's when I seen you with half a ship sailing.
Yep.
Yeah.
That was that.
Yeah.
But yeah, Far Changing Tides is really impactful. I love the imagery in it a lot. It's an art style. I said this to Ned yesterday. It's an art style that really knows itself. It's very fluent in its direction. I like it so far, so I probably will finish that game. I think it's only like 5 hours or something.
Yeah, I was going to ask, is it going to be a game that you finish?
I think so,
yeah.
But we'll see. I've talked about it now, and I've had a fulfilling experience already, so who knows if I ever
that's
return
it.
to it.
You've drawn a line on there. I could be the same with Phoenix Wright. I've got
such a fulfilling experience.
I've got about 3 hours into a probably 90-hour epic.
That is not worth 90 hours.
It might be. We'll see.
Witcher 3 is a 90-hour game. Like, that's not comparable.
Well, I might finish the first one. We'll see how it goes.
Okay. But
yeah,
to put those bits aside, now that we've talked about that, let's talk about more kind of palate cleansers. I call your game a palate cleanser.
Phoenix Wright?
Yeah.
I guess.
But to get to the meat of the palate cleansing plate.
Yeah. Well, maybe let's explain what we mean by palate cleanser.
I suppose. Yeah. So as you know, if you watched previous episodes, the last episode we talked all about The Last of Us, and we will touch on it briefly again in this episode.
For sure.
But so basically, palate cleansers for us, when it comes to gaming, is like, if you've just played a game that like ripped your heart out and like set it on fire and stomped on it,
yeah,
and then you still want a game, but you're kind of mourning. These are palate cleansing games. And so usually they're like very lighthearted, very like funny, or just like mindless. So the palate cleanser game that you and I hyper focused on is Tiny Tina's Wonderlands.
Yeah, it was like the total opposite of The Last of Us.
Absolutely.
So I had also I had realized that I needed a palate cleanser after The Last of Us 2 as well, and I'll come to my palate cleanser for that later. But I had never really thought about the idea of a palate cleanser game prior to that. I know that I've done it prior to that, but I'd never really consciously thought about how do I follow games. But there's this sense of, and it's not even when you finish a sad game, it's just finishing a game that you were fully invested in, and normally maybe a longer game too.
Yeah.
A world that you don't necessarily want to leave, but you have to because the game's coming towards an end.
Yeah.
How do you follow that up? And I think what I've found for me is following it up with a game that's similar is not the best way to do it, because it'll just always...
Because it's going to fall flat, because it's not going to be the exact same characters. It's not going to be the same even like mechanisms, like nothing will actually be the same, and so it can't scratch that itch. So basically it's like, you have your beautiful like dinner, like a 3-course dinner, and then you're like, or no, not a 3-course, just like your main course and your dinner, and then here's your dessert. Like it's a completely different thing, or your shot of prosecco with your porn star martini, those kinds of things.
Yeah. So I think when The Last of Us, Tiny Tina has been on sale a number of times since it came out over the last year, and it just happened to be on sale when you finished The Last of Us. Now, we've started it before you did, just for our timeline here.
Yes.
We finished the first game.
We finished The Last of Us.
Haven't played the DLC.
Okay, so here's the actual
delved into
timeline to make that clearer.
Yeah.
We played The Last of Us, started Tiny Tina, went to London, just started the DLC today. And I don't know how far I am in that. I feel like I'm near the end.
Probably about 30 or 40 minutes left.
Yeah,
I'd
say
so
I'm
fairly
near enough
close,
to the end.
It's a pretty short experience.
Yeah.
So we're very much, the only reason we're not playing Tiny Tina this weekend is because we haven't got a second controller available to us
Which
this
seems
weekend.
ridiculous,
I know,
doesn't it?
right? But we've been playing. The great thing about it is there's split screen options, and we've been able to also do it on online as well together. So it's been a great game to play because, I mean, tonally, I'm not sure that you could have
anything more opposite.
More opposite to The Last of Us. Now, I will say there's a lot of people that have that criticize the Borderlands games and they think that the humor is maybe a bit juvenile.
I mean, it is, but that's why you come to the game, right?
I love it.
Yeah, it's dumb.
I love how dumb and simple it is.
Yeah.
So for anyone that doesn't know the games, there are the Borderland games, which are set in
I haven't played those.
A world. You've played a little bit of 3. Yeah.
That's when that is the brief side note. Playing that with Ned it's the first time in our many years long relationship that I realized that he was an only child. Because we were sharing loot and he was offensively bad at it.
I'm bad at sharing the loot, not the game.
Yeah, bad at sharing the loot. Yeah, no, because he was an only child. And he was like, oh, a chest? That's for me. In Tiny Tina, you can choose whether it's co-op or whether it's competitive. And I insisted that it was co-op. But go on.
So, Borderlands, I'm not even going to deny it.
No.
Borderlands is a set of games, there's 3 of them, with lots of DLC for each of them, set in a world far, far away, and sort of in almost a post-apocalyptic kind of vibe to it. It's not post-apocalyptic because it's on a different world, right?
Yeah.
But it's
just a sad, like a dire
but it has that kind of vibe, all right. After Borderlands 2, there was a DLC which featured a character called Tiny Tina. And it was her setting up a D&D game for her friends. And so you played in a sort of a wizarding world within Borderlands. So you're still playing with rifles and shotguns and all this sort of stuff. And it was really fun. I think people really digged and really loved that DLC. And so clearly they were like, okay, we're on to something.
Yeah.
And they made a whole game called Tiny Tina's Wonderlands.
And it's so good.
It's so fun. The voice acting is great. Ashley Birch is the DM. The DM, Tiny Tina. Possibly my favorite role that she's ever been in. I mean, she's honestly, great at Tiny Tina.
I know it's bad because she's got like Life is Strange and Aloy under her belt.
Seriously good roles.
But it's really good because I think it's probably the most we've ever seen demanded of Ashley Birch.
Yeah.
It's
Aloy, not Ashley Birch being Ashley Birch, right?
Aloy is just I'm strong. And she's like, I'm kind of two-dimensional. And we can talk about that a different day. And Chloe is like, I'm a reject badass, and everyone knows.
Although she's the best part of that game, though.
She's the only good part of the shitty fucking game.
It's an okay game. We'll debate it another time. But Tiny Tina, totally different
Ashley
character.
Birch in as Tina
very
is amazing. Yeah. She's so goofy. She's got such vulnerable parts to her. She's such a freak. Everything is so good about it. And I love that she's able to play a child in such a convincing way. And
there's other great voice actors throughout the game as well. Andy Samberg, Batman.
Is her last name Witta? Batman, yeah.
Yeah. Anyway,
that's terrible.
Lego Batman. Yeah. Great voice actors, and Ashley Birch really holds her own, and she's still the center of the whole thing.
No, she's
And
right.
there's moments of genuine sadness as well, because what you learn in Borderlands 2, if you've played that, is that Tiny Tina is this orphan on the world on her own, and this the opportunity to play D&D is an opportunity to bring her friends together. And it's maybe a little on the nose, but it's
the
nice.
thing. So I think probably a lot of people's complaints, I haven't seen anyone's complaints and I don't really care about them, but I think probably what a lot of people would say is that it is so on the nose, but I don't think they are unaware that they're being on the nose. No. And that's when on the nose is an issue, is when they think they're making these salient, poignant points. Yeah. But it's no, 2 + 2 = 4, and we understand that. Look, whereas I don't know, they know and they're aware of it and they make fun of it in certain ways, and they break the fourth wall because it's D&D. And so, I think it's great. And I want to talk about my character, but if you've got a point you want to add before we dive in.
I was just going to say, if you like the Lego Batman or the Lego movie type of humor, this is kind of similar. Yeah. It's silly humor. I love it. It's a lot of fun, and we've been having a great time. And when you were talking about palate cleansers again, without getting too deep into the actual game itself, the idea of The Last of Us, to follow that game up, we just needed some humor. We needed just to laugh and just be funny and be silly, and this game was absolutely perfect for us. Yeah,
definitely. Yeah. And one thing that I really appreciate about the game as well is that even though it's first person and you very rarely ever see your character, that there's a super long character creation sheet, so long and so customizable. But choosing your class and then your eventual second class or your subclass or whatever it is, multi-classing, is so fun, and I nailed it, absolutely nailed it. So Ned made his character first, and this is kind of true to us whenever we do any sort of D&D adjacent things. Usually Ned goes first, and then I'm how can I complement that and or make jabs at that? And so he made his character, and then I was left with the controller to make mine, and I was okay. And so I chose. Is she a Spore Warden first?
Spore Warden, yeah.
Spore Warden first, and which means that you get a little mushroom companion that is my favorite part of the game, hands down. Hands down.
If you haven't checked out Ellie's Instagram posts about the Spore Warden, you should check them out. She's got some great screenshots of them.
Yeah, my little petit champignon. But so you get to also choose what type of voice that you have, and Ned had gone for a smarmy, clever kind of
yeah.
gal.
So she's a British girl. She's very clever. She's kind of dignified.
Yeah, and so I went for the strange voice with a probably around my tone of voice, maybe a little bit lower. And she's so weird. And she monologues, and it's the most perfect combination with Spore Warden. It was meant to be together. Yeah.
We should explain that when you pick your voice, which I think is really interesting, you're not just picking the voice, you're picking the actual dialogue that they say. Yeah. So it's not just different voices saying the same dialogue. That strange voice is saying strange things.
She says such weird
She reacts in such a weird way. Yeah. It's so funny.
I love her so much.
And the fact that you picked Spore Warden with that is just, it's a really good combination. I would like to see other combinations and other voices and how they react to the to different situations.
I just can't see it. It's the one, I feel like the developers were 2 + 2 = 4. That's what this combination is. It makes
sense.
The most sense. And then as my second class, I chose Blight Caller. So I also just shoot basically spores. It's funny. I did keep some of The Last of Us with me.
You did.
I kept the mushrooms.
You got a little mushroom.
I got my cordyceps with me.
So this has been a really great palate cleanser.
Great. Because we explained a bit of it there, but it's a looter shooter. You're just going around shooting on these little ridiculous quests and hearing funny narration while you're doing it, and it's first person shooter. what's Princess Butt Stallion is
Princess
like the
Butt
character
Stallion
we're trying to avenge.
Is Tiny Tina's main character in the D&D world. Have you, apart from Wonderlands though, have you ever played any other games that you would consider palate cleansers? I might suggest one that I've played. So after The Last of Us 2, you haven't played it,
right?
But you've played Last of Us 1, so you can imagine Last of Us 2 emotionally impactful.
Yes.
And we leave it there.
Yes.
I needed something else to play. I had a lot of games that I needed to get through at the time. Couldn't think of anything that could follow that game. And then Concrete Genie came along. Short game, beautiful and colourful, like not particularly challenging. It was something that I was able to have Faye, who was probably around 8 or 9 at that stage, come and join me play. It was the perfect answer to The Last of Us 2. And that was when I realised, okay, actually this is probably a phase that I go through. I play a big game followed by a couple of smaller games just to emotionally recover from those bigger games.
To be gently held while you're crying a little.
So that was, I think you've played a little bit of Concrete Genie as well, right?
I devoured it. There was like one day where I just sat and like played until I was like gonna pass out because I was hungry. Like I played like 10 hours. I got to the final boss in that day, and then the final boss was weirdly hard.
Yeah, the final boss
weirdly hard,
was
and
actually,
it had 4. I remember it had 4 like phases. Yes, phases. Thank you. And I was like, what the fuck? Like I was like, I made it to the 3rd phase and I'm not done. And after that game had been so beautiful and easy, I was like, what the hell? Yeah, there's a bit of a hard turn at the end. But besides that, I mean, the game was lovely. Like it was so beautiful and so easy to just skate around and paint and play with all these weird little monsters. Yeah, I really like that game.
Yeah. But have you had any other games that you would consider palate cleansers? I mean, you had a particularly... if you haven't heard it on the podcast before, Ellie had the bad ending of The Witcher 3.
I was going to talk about that.
What game did you follow that with?
No, I'm trying to think because...
Or should you have had a palate cleanser maybe?
I should have, is the answer. So, yes, The Witcher 3 is undoubtedly the game that has hurt me the most, like, ever. Because, as we know, I care a lot about it. It's very important to me. I wrote part of my master's dissertation on it, and it's been the basis for a lot. Like, not because I think it is indelible. Like, it's not the most perfect thing that's ever happened. It's just something that like has been I just hit the mic. It's just been a thing that's been really important to me throughout my life and like my development as a writer and all these things. And then I played the game. This was pre-therapy as well. And I played the game with my daddy issues on full display because I was like, Geralt loves her. Geralt protects her at every single step. And the game was like, fuck you, she dies. And so I like cried so hard. Yeah. And I was like beside myself.
I genuinely thought the adventure in video games was over. That was it. We were done. Video games were not going to be part of our life.
I was so hurt.
It was that.
I was so hurt. And like we've talked a lot about like the ways in which CDPR could actually have warned you at some point in the game, where like Vesemir could have been like, you got to let her do her own thing at some point. But even so, I do recognize Geralt wasn't doing the right things for her. This is post-therapy.
So, she played The Witcher 3.
Yes.
She felt this strongly. Even years later, she's feeling this strongly about it.
Yeah, I felt a lot stronger.
What did you follow up The Witcher 3 with?
So I think I made the mistake of following it up with Horizon Zero Dawn. And Horizon Zero Dawn was a fail.
You bounced off that game.
Yeah, because it was another RPG, but it wasn't...
You finished it.
Eventually, but it took ages.
You did, I remember you bouncing off.
I bounced off it because it was difficult, and I found bits of it annoying, and it wasn't the system I already knew. And like there was the beginning of Horizon is like weirdly hard, even though the middle isn't. And you don't have many resources. Yeah. She's pretty under level at the very beginning. And I didn't find Aloy compelling. Like I still don't really find Aloy super compelling.
So, but do you think that if you had have maybe jumped into,
like a light game.
A light game, do you think that maybe that would have reset you for another bigger world?
It
Because
might
I'm
have.
sure there's plenty of people that are listening to this that don't ever play a palate cleanser. They go straight from The Last of Us 2 into The Witcher 3 into Assassin's Creed Odyssey, all of these big wide open worlds. But
see, I think the thing that might have saved me in that experience was that I had been playing Animal Crossing.
Oh, I see.
Animal Crossing's New Horizon. Why is all of that feeling wrong?
It is, right? Animal Crossing New Horizons?
Yeah, that ACNH, yeah. That series of words felt so foreign to me. I don't know that I've ever fully name dropped it, but I was playing Animal Crossing.
Animal Crossing.
And
right.
And I was playing that concurrently. And then I think I might have just like drowned myself in it a little bit afterwards. And I tried to take on Horizon Zero Dawn, and I was like, I hate it.
Yeah.
Like, I was like embarrassed at how much fun I wasn't having with Horizon Zero Dawn at one point. Yeah. And then I just
because you've seen how much I love that system.
And everyone loves it, and like as they should. I now have a very different feeling about it, about the game itself. Like the mechanics are very, very cool, and I think the story's awesome in the first one. I think the second one lets you down a little bit, but yeah, no. So I think maybe because that was like my first. That's the other thing. Witcher 3 is technically the first game I've ever finished, if you don't count like Lego Indiana Jones when I was like 16, you know? And so like that was the first game I ever finished, and it destroyed me. And then I was like, is this what gaming is like? Like I was so beside myself.
Well, to that point, you were afraid of games in the future giving you any sort of choice
I didn't
or decision.
Trust.
Yeah,
like this is years now.
Yeah.
I still sometimes I'm like, what's the right choice? Like I just can't. Like I think that game and that franchise means way too much to me. And so, like, there are other games, like, I'm sure with Mass Effect, I'm going to have a great time making choices. Because it's, like, it makes so many different...
There's someone crying but listening to this podcast right now. It's like, don't do it,
Mass Effect
don't do it.
Like, they've had their Witcher 3 experience with Mass Effect.
I have played all three of those games. There are moments that, if you let yourself get invested into some of the characters...
Oh, I'm sure. No, I know it's going to make me emotional. I know who I am. But I don't care about it as much as I care about Witcher. Like, I'll be invested, but, like, The Witcher was, like, fundamental for me. But, yeah, I think because that was the beginning of, like, my gaming career, that's cringy, that I didn't know. Like, I didn't know how to mourn while gaming, you know?
Yeah,
like,
so you jumped into a big world to try and escape another big world.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so, it's not a good idea.
If anybody else out there has games that they've had to take a break from, I'd love to hear if there's anyone that took a palate cleanser in the middle of a game.
Oh, yeah.
That's I think I've inadvertently done that.
And I'd also love palate cleanser recommendations.
Do you plan your games? Because I've started to plan my route through certain games.
Do you have no time in your life? That's what that question actually was. Do you also have no time?
Yeah. So let us know what your particular palate cleansers are. What you'd recommend. What makes a good palate cleanser? We'd love to find out more because we have an infinite amount of games that we haven't played yet.
Yes.
So.
But yeah. I mean, I guess we didn't end up talking about Tiny Tina as much as I thought we would. But Tiny Tina's great. Yeah. Definitely recommend it. Absolutely co-op that. It's so fun to play together. It's so silly.
I think that might be, and I know Primark in the Discord had said that he played it too and kind of bounced off a little bit, but it was himself that kind of said it's probably more fun playing it in co-op, and I think he's probably right. I think it is just because we're able to joke with each other.
Because when the game is so silly itself, like it's more fun to experience that kind of humor with another person.
Yeah,
and
for
like,
sure.
Every time that my character is like, mushroom miasma!
And we both say it on the couch, and we both say it as well.
Or you just hear my mushroom like fart. Like, what? Or I can make Ned obsessively look at my little mushroom's butt all the time. I'm like, look at it! Look at my petit champignon. But yeah, Tiny Tina, I would absolutely recommend.
Awesome game.
Great palate cleanser for anyone if you are in need, if you are currently mourning over.
And we are going to be continually playing.
Yeah.
Your palate cleanser for Tiny Tina is going to be The Last of Us 2, probably.
Yeah, everything's a palate cleanser.
Very different.
Yeah.
A reverse palate cleanser, right? But what else have we been doing?
Yes.
Yeah.
I was going to say besides gaming, but I did quickly want to dive into something that we hadn't talked about before this. Okay. We did our first 2-person D&D session yesterday.
Oh, we did.
And it was so fun.
So fun.
So fun.
So very different sort of set. If anyone is out there that has played D&D already, this is a 2-player game without a dungeon master.
It just gives you a booklet that you take turns reading, basically.
Myself and Ellie have been listening to a lot of D&D podcasts. Won't get into them for the moment because I do want to spend a whole podcast talking about our D&D podcast obsession.
Yeah.
But listening to a lot of D&D.
Just let it be known, I've probably listened to like 500 hours of D&D and I haven't even touched Critical Role yet. So
yeah, so it's been a big obsession with the two of us, but we've never played D&D. And we were looking for a way to try and play it as 2 people. So Ellie found this.
Tell everyone I think it's called like Roll for Two, but it's by the company called Fights and Fancy. And it's a British company, and they basically just give you these little session booklets. And like it's a very pared back system. You only need a D6, and you get to choose between 3 classes. So it's like Thief, Mage, or Fighter. It's a very pared back system, and it takes you through a couple encounters. Like I would like it if the session was longer. Yeah. Because it takes so long between the sessions to come out because they're still releasing them. It's not like there's an inventory of them. So we have sessions 1 and 2, and we've played 1
and
so
session
far.
3 is currently available for pre-order. Yeah. But when a session is only really lasts, maybe it lasted us about 2 hours.
It lasted us a few hours because we really made a meal out of it. Like we made sure to improvise more than it prompted us. We made sure to take a break or like really dive into our character sheets or tell each other about it. Because like we've been so excited about finding a way to play D&D together because like, long story short, I've been trying to get a D&D campaign off the ground with so many different people for like 3 years. Like they have each failed in their own unique way. And it's so like heartbreaking for me because like I want to play a significant amount of D&D before I try to DM because there's so much I still don't know, no matter how much
it's the biggest barrier to entry with this, right?
Yeah.
I mean,
if I was willing to DM, it'd be so fucking easy to get.
We are very late to the game, right? with D&D, and but I think there's probably a lot of people out there that are late to the game. Love the idea of D&D, but like, how do you find four other people, 3 other people even to try and play this with? That is a pretty big. I mean, you only need your imagination and some dice to play. Yeah. So there's no monetary or physical.
Okay. So the
other thing that we've been doing. Sorry for the hard turn on this. But if you're listening to the audio, we've also done something new this week. Actually,
I'm not sure if you guys will be able to hear it because our mics are quite good, but we fostered a dog.
We've a new guest,
and she is so cute, but she snores so loudly. Like, I'm going to see if I can get it. Hi, Zara.
Oh, she's awake now.
Hi, Zara.
Zara, you coming over? Say hello to everyone.
Come here.
Yeah, so this is our new foster puppy.
Come here.
Zara. Hi.
Oh, and she immediately showed you her butt. There she is.
So this is Zara. She's been playing Tiny Tina with us. Yeah. She's been playing The Last of Us with us. She is here for 4 or 5 weeks before she goes to her permanent home, we believe. Yeah, and she's great. Look how good she's doing.
She is the most gorgeous little thing in the world. She is a staffy. She's probably about 40 pounds, so she's very small, but she's dense. And she is gorgeous.
She's gone straight for the microphone.
Yeah, trying to get her not eat the microphone.
All right,
but she is so sweet, and she looks like a little seal. And she's very sleepy and very cuddly.
Yeah, very cuddly. So that is probably I don't think you can beat that.
Well, to just quickly wrap up, anyone who's wanting to know about so Fights and Fancy is that company if you want to order another roll for 2. thing for you, just let it be known, they went viral on TikTok a couple of times, so they're super back ordered and they take a really long time. The other thing to that, because we were talking about trying to find D&D campaigns, I found a really cool resource the other night called rpg.net, and I think most of the people there are based in the States, but they do have some UK things. But if that's something that you're looking for, you can actually be a part of, like, you can basically pay a dungeon master to do a campaign with you. And when they're really good, dungeon masters deserve the money, especially if you're strangers, you know?
Yeah, the amount of work that goes into a good campaign, and again, we're new to this, so we haven't played before, but we do know observing and watching and reading and listening to a huge amount of D&D how much work it is to be a good dungeon master.
Yeah.
And I have no problem with paying a DM to come in and do a campaign for us. So that's something we're probably going to do in the new year as well, and we'll definitely talk about it on the podcast.
Absolutely, because I'm obsessed with D&D.
Yeah.
But so that's what's up with us.
Yeah, lots of news, lots of things happening.
Yes.
Looking forward to Christmas. We'll probably have maybe 2 more episodes before the new year, and we have to do our 2023 awards.
Yeah.
Best of the year, all the games that we didn't play, and all the games that came out in previous years, giving them an award this year.
And guess what? Baldur's Gate is not going to be on our list, but that's only because we haven't played it.
It might be on our list.
Okay, a list, but it won't be in our top ones because we haven't played it. But we will.
Yes.
Yeah, hopefully in the new year.
Well.
But, okay, lots of energy. Got to decompress now. But you've got lots of resources. You've got lots of games that you need to play. So thank you so much for joining us on this episode of the Late to the Game podcast. And until the next time, don't forget to join the community Discord and follow myself at Elementally. That is the word Element, ELLIE, or at
Ned Kelly Gamer, GMR, Ned Kelly GMR on Instagram.
And I think that's it for us.
That's it.
Yeah, that's where you can stay up to date. So thanks so much for watching and or listening. And tell your friends.
Goodbye.
Bye.